There's a common mistake that kills worm populations faster than pesticides, and it's being made in compost piles and garden beds every single day. Grass clippings are supposed to be one of the most natural, nutrient-rich mulches you can use, but when added the wrong way, they turn into a suffocating mat that drives worms away, locks out oxygen, and chokes soil life underneath. Many gardeners think they're feeding the soil when they dump on that fresh green layer, but what they're really doing is sealing it off. The truth is, grass clippings are powerful, but they're also dangerous when used incorrectly. The same nitrogen that makes them grow lush lawns can also create toxic anaerobic conditions underground. Understanding why this happens, and how to fix it, will turn those same clippings from a worm killer into one of the best worm-feeding humus-building materials you'll ever use. When fresh grass forms a mat, it blocks air and creates rot instead of life. Freshly cut grass is about 80% water and extremely rich in nitrogen. That's what makes it such a great compost ingredient, but also what makes it volatile. When spread thickly over soil, those juicy blades stick together, forming an airtight layer. Within hours, oxygen runs out, and instead of healthy decomposition, anaerobic bacteria take over. You'll know it's happening when the clippings turn black and smell like sour ammonia or rotten eggs. That odor is ammonia gas and methane, byproducts of anaerobic rot. Worms can't survive in those conditions. The gases burn their skin, and the lack of oxygen drives them deeper or out entirely. To prevent this, grass should never be added thick and wet. Instead, thin it out into a light, fluffy layer, never more than 1 inch thick if it's fresh. If you want to use more, it must first be dried for a day or two in the sun. Once dried, it loses that slimy compacting effect and becomes far more worm-friendly. Worms love grass, but only after it's partially decomposed. Fresh clippings are just too hot. The nitrogen level is so high that microbial activity spikes, and heat builds rapidly. Worms can't handle that. The trick is to let nature pre-digest the clippings first. Here's the ratio that works best. Mix 2 parts dry brown material, like shredded leaves, cardboard or straw, with 1 part grass clippings. This balance gives microbes the carbon they need to control that nitrogen surge. In just a few days, the pile will warm, then cool. Once it no longer feels hot to the touch, worms can safely work through it. Another effective approach is to spread grass in thin alternating layers. 1 inch of grass, followed by 1 inch of dry leaves or mulch. Just repeat this process until you reach the desired thickness. This layering prevents compaction, allows airflow, and keeps the soil beneath moist, but not sealed. Worms will begin moving upward through these layers, feeding on the microbial life that forms as the materials break down. In a large compost pile, adding too much grass at once can push temperatures beyond 160 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hot enough to sterilize sections of the heap, killing beneficial fungi and bacteria before they ever finish their work. When that happens, decomposition stalls, and instead of becoming humus, the pile turns greasy and clumpy. To avoid this, never dump more than a few inches of grass in one layer. Blend it in thoroughly with bulkier browns like shredded bark, dry stems, or even coarse soil. These materials open the structure of the pile, allowing oxygen to move through. You'll know you've done it right when the compost heats evenly, smells earthy instead of sour, and cools down again within a week or two. That's when the worms can move in and finish the job. A quick field trick for gardeners without compost bins. If your lawnmower collects clippings, empty the catcher and mix the contents directly with shredded cardboard or dry leaves before adding it to your beds. The ideal texture should feel fluffy and not sticky between your hands. Grass clippings work best when added to a living bed, one already full of organic matter, mulch, and microbial activity. When dumped onto bare dry soil, the clippings ferment instead of decompose. In contrast, a bed that already has worm tunnels, humus, and surface mulch acts like a natural filter. The moisture from the grass seeps into the lower layers, where worms and microbes transform it into nutrients almost immediately. To build worm-rich soil fast, you'll want to apply clippings only after watering the bed. Then, just cover the grass layer with something dry, like shredded paper, straw, or even dry mulch. This top layer, It really helps prevent drying and balances out the nitrogen surge happening below. Within just a few days, you'll notice worm castings appearing near the surface again, a sure sign the system is thriving, not suffocating. If you've already got a pile of slimy, stinking grass clippings, don't throw it out. It can still be saved. The best fix is to turn it and spray it with an aerated compost tea or worm leachate. This introduces oxygen-loving microbes that outcompete the anaerobic ones. In just a few days, the odor will fade, and the texture will loosen. Once that happens, just blend the rejuvenated material into a balanced compost heap or use it as a top dress on established beds. Never bury it deep or apply it fresh again. You'll find that worms return quickly once the chemical imbalance disappears. Grass clippings can be a blessing or a curse depending on how you handle them. Used right, they're a powerful source of nitrogen and organic matter that feeds soil life, attracts worms, and builds rich humus fast. Used wrong, they suffocate everything underneath and create a layer so toxic that worms flee from it. The difference comes down to three things: thin layers, proper mixing, and timing. For those looking to build living soil rather than smother it, these simple changes turn grass waste into a worm magnet instead of a worm killer. If this guide helped you understand how to use your clippings the right way, make sure to subscribe to Hydrohaven for more deep-dive gardening insights that bring your soil back to life. Share this video with other growers who still dump raw grass on their beds. They might be one small change away from transforming dead soil into thriving, worm-rich ground.